Whose company is on their second or third or more transformation? Still pursuing to be the butterfly, right? So I'm going to talk to you about what's different from 10 years ago, 15 years ago in terms of transformation versus now. I'm David Hawks with a company called Path to Agility, with this guy, the twigs and leaf guy. I'm going to share with you a little bit of what we've learned over the last 12 years of leading transformations. So where do transformations start in many organizations? Usually there's a team somewhere that somebody said, let's do Agile, right? And we start doing some things within a team. And most organizations started with a single team, and then it starts to expand. Now we start getting things happening across multiple teams. We start looking at what we would call the system of teams. And we start having to figure out, well, how do we work across multiple teams? Now we need like a scrum of scrums or other things. And I'm talking about organic kind of transformation that starts to emerge, right? So we have things, bless you, at the team level, at this multi-team level. And then all of a sudden we say, well, we got to interact with people outside of our team who are giving us requirements, and they're not giving us requirements the right way. They're like, yeah, y'all go be Agile, but what's the date? What's going to be in it? And you're like, well, no, you need to start changing your language. We got to start educating them about how Agile works. We got to help them start working with us in a different way and talk to them about why it's going to help them get what they really want if they would work with us in a different way. And then we say, well, we need finance to be differently because how we're funding things might need to change, and how marketing is working and marketing a product that's releasing more often, and how the executives are handling strategy, that's got to be shifted. So we start teaching them how we need them to interact with us differently across the transformation. Right? And then, next thing we know, we start to look at business unit agility, right? Within different organizations, marketing agility, as we just heard about, right? Like, oh, we can apply that. Now we understand how we might be able to apply that in our side of the organization. Or within HR agility, right? So we started to see that. Now we're seeing this idea of business agility or total organizational agility, where, all right, how do we apply that across the whole org? Right? So when we think about this journey that we've been through over the last 20, 30 years, right, is that we started out with what I would say back in early 2000s was what I would call grassroots agility. That's when actual developers were the ones saying we should do this, right? And we were doing XP and Scrum. And like the developers were the ones that's how I learned from Agile. It was some other developer on the team that said, hey, we should do this Scrum thing. I was like, what the heck is that, right? And then we started seeing transformations that were really just what I would say team transformations, very Scrum-focused transformations about how do we apply, how do we do things at a team level. And then, over the, about just somewhere in the last 10 years, we start to see all the scaling frameworks start to emerge. Safe, Less, DADS, Nexus, Scrum and Scale, like they're everywhere. Like, and so we started seeing what I would call system-level agility. How do we do this at an enterprise? How do we do this across big, huge, 100, 200-person systems of teams? And then from there, now we're entering into a new frontier, which is the business agility frontier, and business agility transformations. I've heard of companies that shrunk during COVID, but they're building back from the ground up as an agile organization, and it's exciting to hear about, right? That we're starting to do this. And it's not that the previous transformations, some of those that really failed, it's just that we've started to expand the scope as we started to learn more about how it works, because we learned how to apply it at a team level, and that's what started to unlock our ability to start to think about, well, how would that work at the system level, right? If we can figure out how it works at a team, we can figure out how it works at a system of teams, and then we can figure out how it could work in an organization. And so as we started to educate our stakeholders and started working with marketing started to figure out, like 10 years ago, Agile, that's a tech thing, right? Now it's like, oh, now I can see how it can apply here, right? I can see how it can apply in other parts of the organization. We also have to recognize that at tech level transformation, we're at the lagging side of the adoption curve, right? But business agility is at the early adopters. There's more people that are like, all right, I know I'm paving the way if I do business agility. The tech level transformation, they're like, all right, everybody's got this figured out, right? You know, it's already a plan. There's something in place. There's now so many more books, things like at the Amazon search returned 4,000 hits on Agile books, right? We have so many things that are documented. Our scaling frameworks have documented a lot of practices, kind of put all of them in together. A lot of them didn't invent a lot of new practices. They just kind of put a bunch of scaling things together. We have more urgency to change. We've seen this since COVID, that before COVID, we saw people were doing transformations kind of like, because well, everybody else is doing safe, we should do safe, right? And now we're seeing this urgency about we got to be more responsive to the market. We're starting to see more tools about how to lead change, how to adopt, how to assess, how do I understand, not just manage, you know, like Jira, but like, how do I actually see about the transformations efforts and what's happening and the optics and the metrics that are happening. Seth also mentioned that we want to start building more internal coaching capacity in our organizations, that this is a sustaining thing. This isn't a short-term burst. We don't go into burst mode to get to Agile, right? It's something that takes time. It takes a journey. It's actually needs to be there forever. It's about continuous improvement and continuously getting better. And we're never going to be done. We're never going to have that moment. And it's hard. It's difficult. It still is difficult. And our scope, while you know we see stats about failing transformations, but it's really that our scope has expanded into harder and harder problems, and we're all trying to solve bigger and bigger problems. And we've got this mission to be on this evolutionary journey about transformation.